This critical crime. So this is a resource for understanding the Islamic holy book. As the Islamic terrorism become a distressingly common feature of life, into insight, scholar Robert Spencer narrates the Quranic text with attentive references to the principle. The Tasfir, Tafasir, are commentaries that mainstream Muslims use today to understand the Quran, showing how its interpretations that sanctioning violence are unfortunately not outliers, but essential in Islamic theology. The critical Quran is the Islamic counterpart to numerous critical and skeptical editions of the Bible that have appeared over the last century and more. It is the one edition of Islam's book that doesn't shy away from elucidating why the Holy Book of Islam is so frequently quoted and referred to with reference by people who commit and or justify acts of violence. It is a basic resource for everyone who wishes to understand the persistent phenomenon of Islamic terrorism in a popular prominence of this most provocative book. The title tempts the reader to think that the surah is actually about a cow. This is, however, not the case. Yeah, I read that one. So it says, in the name of Allah, the compassionate and the merciful. Alif Lam Mim. This book, there is no doubt in it. It is a guide for those who fear Allah, who believe in the unseen and establish prayer and spend out of that we given to them, and who believe in what has been revealed to you and what was revealed before you and are sure of the hereafter. These are the people who depend on guidance from their Lord, and these are the successful. As for the unbelievers, it is all the same for them, whether you warn them or don't. Warn them. They do not believe. Allah has sealed their hearing in their hearts, and over their eyes there is a covering. They will suffer an awful doom. And there are some people who say, we believe in Allah and the last day, and they are not believers. They try to deceive Allah and those who believe, and they deceive no one except themselves, but they do not realize it. In their hearts is a disease, and Allah increases their disease, and they will suffer a painful doom, because they lie. And when it is said to them, do not spread corruption on the earth, they say, we are only peacemakers. Are they not? Are they indeed those who spread corruption, but they do not realize it? And when it is said to them, believe as the people believe, they say, shall we believe as the foolish people believe? Are not they indeed the foolish ones? But they do not know. And when they encounter those who believe, they say, we believe, but when they go back to their Satans, they say, indeed we are with you, we're just mocking. Allah mocks them, leaving them to wonder blindly on in their defiance, and they are the ones who buy error at price of guidance. So their business does not prosper and they are not guided. They are like the one who lights a fire and when it illuminates everything around him, Allah takes away their light and leaves them in darkness in which they cannot see. Deaf, dumb, and blind, and they will not return, are like a rainstorm from the sky in which is in darkness. Is darkness funner and lighting? I'm teaching a book that teach about Islam. It's not me reading the Quran, as I don't believe in the Quran. I believe it's the work of Satan to brainwash people. Lighting, they thrust their fingers into their ears because of their thunder. For fear of death, Allah surrounds the unbelievers, and the lighting almost snatches their sight away from them. So he gives a little commentary of what they mean. Verse 7, Allah has sealed their hearing in their hearts and over their eyes. There is a covering and they will suffer an awful doom. Another theme in this part of the cow is Allah's absolute control over everything, even the choices of an individual souls to believe in Him or reject Him. All through the book, there are so many explorations to believe in its message that it is hard to imagine that Islam could reject the concept of free will. The Tafsir of Jalal says of the unbelievers that Allah does not remove blessings from them until they exchange their good state for disobedience. In other words, as long as they persist in sin, they have only themselves to blame. Other Quran passages hold it is Satan who leads the believers astray. But still other passages of the Quran as well as indications from Islamic tradition state that no one believes in Allah except by His will. So also no one can disbelieve in Him except by His active will. Everything is in Allah's hands, even the decision of the individuals to obey Him or not. Yet human beings will still be held accountable for the things they have done. Yet those who have rejected Allah do so because He made it possible for them to do nothing. Ibn Kathir states that the word ayat verses indicate that whomever Allah has written to be miserable, they shall never find anyone to guide them to happiness. And whomever Allah directs to misguidance, and He shall never find anyone to guide him. In early Islamic history, a party known as the Qadariya is said to have tried to advance the concept of individual free will, and the pioneering Islamic scholar Ignaz Gozer explains that the Qadra were protesting against an unworthy conception of God, and yet they could not find a large body of supporters among Muslims, and their opponents battled them with the received interpretation of the sacred scriptures. And won automatically, Muslim authorities declared the concept of human free will to be heritable. A 12th century Muslim jurist, Ibn Abi Yalafulminated, that the Qur'an wrongly consider that they hold in their grasp the ability to do good and evil and avoid harm and obtain benefit, obey and disobey, and be guided or misguided. They claim that human beings retain full and without any prior status within the will of Allah for their acts, nor even His knowledge of them. Even worse, their doctrine is similar to the Zoroastrians and Christians. It is the very root of heresy. Verse 8 says, and there are some people who say, we believe in Allah and the last day, and they are not believers. Allah refers to Himself as we frequently throughout the Quran, and some non-Muslims have been tempted to see traces of polytheism in this, and Christians in particular have attempted to discern the Trinity. Islamic theology, however, is independent that this is simply a roy, and that does not infringe upon the Quran's strict and uncompromising monotheism. Number 7 said, 10 says, in their hearts is a disease, and a lie increases their disease. They will suffer a painful doom because they lie. Instead of because they lie, the Ras Quran has because they accuse of lying. And verse 12, verse 11 says, and when it is said to them, do not spread corruption on the earth, they say, we are only peacemakers. To spread corruption on earth is one of the foremost sins the Quran envisions, although it never defines it in specific terms. In Ayat 5 verse 33 specifies the punishment for it as killing, crucifixion, amputation of the hand and a foot on the opposite side, or exile. They said, deaf, dumb, and blind, and they will not return. The charge that those who do not believe in Islam are deaf, dumb, and blind is an indication of the Islamic assumption that those who reject Islam are not operating in good faith, but are suffering from a moral defect. That's what they teach. The lighting almost snatches their sight away from them as often it flashes. They walk in its light, and when it is dark all around them, they stand still. If Allah will, He could destroy their hearing and their sight, for Allah has power over everything. So, the theologist Jacob Bruff notes that the verse appears incomplete. Perhaps a part containing the rhyme has dropped out. The lighting almost snatches their sight away from them as a room. And if you are in doubt about what we are revealing to our slave, then produce a surah like it and call your helpers beside Allah if you're telling the truth. This challenge is hollow and self-reinforcing, as no critical are given for what would make a surah like those of the Quran, and no impartial judge is or could possibly be specified. However, there have been numerous attempts to replace the Quran's tone, language, and rhyme scheme, often by Christians who couch evangelistic appeals to Muslims in chronic distress, but by many others as well. The success or failure of such even endeavors depends entirely upon the attitudes and substitutions of the person who is evaluating them. And Richard Bell notes that the word surah is likely a derivation from the Syriac word surta, used in the sense of scripture. trying to see. This is the book.